Alright guys, so today, hello, welcome. I'm going to be adding the risers onto this boat, and in order to do that, I've sanded down this a little bit so that there's bare wood sticking out, and hopefully the oil won't keep the glue from laminating. So I sanded both these sides down. I did on the stern as well. Here are my risers cut out. So it's just a piece of the gunnel that I've cut in half. So the bare end is actually going to go down, and then I'm going to glue it right here on each side. And what this does is it helps achieve a level plane right here. What you want in the beginning, you're supposed to bow your gunnels. So you'd set them, if these were your gunnels, you'd set them on a sawhorse and you put weight in between to get some curvature in the gunnels. And that way they would come up to the top of your stems. I did not get enough curve in here, so I have to add risers if I want. You don't have to add risers. This just prevents hogging. It'll just be a little more aesthetic. There is a function, but it's not like super detrimental if you don't get this on here. You'll still have the top plate in. It might look a little weird or off. So these are my gunnels. I've pre-drilled holes in them that I'm going to stick dowels in. You do not pre-drill them into your gunnels. You don't need to pre-drill the holes at all. In fact, what they tell you to do is once you get this attached, and you would drill a hole, put in your dowel, drill a hole, put in your dowel, drill a hole, put in your dowel, and that way it's not off. So you'll always have this sitting here. If you were to pre-drill the holes, there's a chance that this could move while you're drilling the holes, and then, well, your first hole would be correct, every other hole after that would be off. So I just pre-drilled the holes, so they're kind of like little pilot holes for me, that I will drill into once I attach it to the gunnels. So also with the risers, what you do most of the time is you'll take the risers once you've cut them to relative size, sandwich them together side by side, and then you're gonna you could sand it. It'll be more difficult to get it even, but you use a hand planer or a spoke shave, and you basically is just gonna put a curve in there so that it slopes down and leads nicely into your gunnels. And then what I did was I measured one end, how far away from the form it would sit, and then I measured again right here, marked it off, sanded to where I needed to, and then I've just kind of marked it off with tape so that I have a permanent and a stopper line, so that these will be of equal length. I did have to make a small adjustment after I cut them. One of them was, this one was just a little bigger than the other one, so I measured them out, cut it down to size, and they are actually like perfectly, unless you're measuring with nanometers. So what we're going to use to glue these down is I have some traditional 5-in-1 TotalBoat marine grade epoxy. Always use marine grade epoxy. Not all epoxy is equal. Yes, you can use tabletop epoxies, deep pour epoxies to glue everything down, but it won't stay, especially in a saltwater environment. A lot of that stuff is prone to damage from saltwater. It's not chemically resistant, as you could say. So we're going to mix this. This is a 5-to-1. So if you don't know how to use one of these guys, these are the 5-to-1 measurement, or the ratio measurements. So you have 1-to-1, 2-to-1, 3-to-1, 5-to-1. Some of them go even farther up than that. So here's how I use this. I have to use the 5-to-1. So if you're using the 1-to-1, from the bottom of the cup, that's 1, and then from this line to this one, that's another equal part. 2-to-1, from the bottom of the cup to this line is 2 parts. From this line up to this one is 1 part. So it'll be 2 parts epoxy, 1 part hardener. If you use a 3-to-1, same concept, that's 3 parts. from this line up to here, that's 1 part, so epoxy hardener. Here I'm using the 5:1, so I'll fill it up to that line right there, and then I'll fill up the hardener to that line right there, so 5 parts to 1 part. If you've never used one of those before, always to use a clean container. For this application, for me, it's not a big deal. It's just epoxy residue in here. It won't flake off, and I have cleaned it out enough so it won't actually affect the volume of the pour, which you definitely don't want. Remember, when you are pouring, do not leave your stir stick in the cup. Also, this is a really thick epoxy. The hardener is very thin, but the part A is very thick, so I've had that inside getting a little warm. Always measure on a level surface, and here we go. And yes, you do want to use a mask for these. It's very windy here right now, so, and I'm outside. That should be fine. And be careful when you are pouring this, don't pour all the way up to the line immediately. What'll happen is, because it's so thick, it'll form like a tower or like a mountain, and then it has to level itself out. So if you measure exactly to the line, once it measures itself or levels itself out, it'll be too much, and you can't really pour it back. So that's perfect. You could pour it back, but then you'd have to pour it into another container. And then we're going to pour this in here. Also, with these thicker epoxies, you don't have a whole lot of working time, 20 minutes. So I'm going to have to glue these down. And then once I'm done gluing them down, I'm going to have to get these dowels in here. Hopefully I have enough working time to get the dowels in there. So I'm going to glue them, clamp them, and then I'll start putting the dowels in. Cool. Cool. So basically you stir this. If you were going to use this to like wet out fiberglass, well, you can't really wet out fiberglass with this. It's too thick. But what you can do is you can use these in boat repair applications. This is the primary function of this particular epoxy. So you mix it fairly slowly. You don't want to whip it, don't want to get too many bubbles in it. That'll also cause it to, well, 1, it'll be bubbly, and you'll have to squeeze those out. 2, too much air will actually trap heat within the epoxy, and what happens is it'll cause it to cure faster. So you stir, stir, stir. You want to make sure you stir until you no longer see any striations. What that is basically it's the separation between the hardener and the epoxy base. Once you get that down, you will be good to go. Like you stir for, I think, like 3 minutes or so, and if you really need to make sure that you're not messing this up, best practice is to always just pour this into another cup, like so, getting everything out off the sides. You do want to get all the resin out of the first cup. Oh my gosh, I'm spilling it. Into the second cup. And basically that's just a preventative measure, because what will happen is you'll get epoxy. Oops, I don't want that in there. The hardener or maybe the base sticks to the sides, and you can't really mix it all the way into the epoxy. So you put it in another cup and you mix it up some more, and it should be good to go. Alright, now here we go. I'm going to take my stir stick and just kind of lightly dab here, paint it, I don't want to get too much. Actually, that's not working very well, so we're going to put our paint stick down somewhere. I don't want to get that down there. So I'm actually just going to take my finger. I have more control over my finger. And we're just going to go up. And I'm just going to put a nice thin layer of epoxy on here. Get it all coated. This is going to be my glue. Just be careful you don't get anything on you. This will not come out of your clothes, no matter what point it is. I mean, unless you soak it in like xylene or something. And I don't want it on the edges, so I'm just going to get it off there. And I'm just going to put it on here. And clamp that down. Once I clamp it down, I'll come back with a towel, some denatured alcohol, and wipe that off, any excess. I'll actually just do that right now. Well, no. So I'm going to clamp one right here. Put another clamp right down here. And while I'm doing this, I'm just squaring this off so that it is in line with the gunnel as much as possible. Alright, so that's secure, that's secure. Alright, we're going to go do the other one. Make sure that's not slipping anywhere. Also, another recommendation, wear clothes that you're not afraid to get messed up, get stuff on, because like I said, this stuff's very messy. It will not come out of your clothes if you get any on you. I'm just going to take this off, throw these gloves away, put some new gloves on. I'm just going to get a rag and soak it in some denatured alcohol and just wipe off the excess. Reason why I'm using denatured alcohol is that won't damage the curing process of this. Like xylene or say acetone would. So denatured alcohol, boom, not like vodka or something from your kitchen. This will also won't eat through my gloves. If you're working with acetone, that you can't. That'll just eat right through your gloves. Mainly I want to get this stuff on the outside off and any residual I put on top, just in case it rubs, the skin sets against any of this. I don't want it being visible through the skin, so yeah, just gonna wipe it off, the excess stuff. Also, the denatured alcohol won't damage my lashings, so that's another reason why you use it, whereas acetone would basically just melt right through them. I mean, not instantly, it would take a while and probably quite a lot of acetone, so just don't use it. Just a shirt sleeve that I ripped off the shirt. And I put that back in the bucket, and now we're going to drill our pilot hole, or our holes. Make sure you got everything lined up. And you're just gonna drill that down in there. You do want to know exactly how deep each hole is. You don't want to go through the gunnel, of course, but you do want to have the dowels appropriately length. So like I said, I'm not using the correct dowels. These are only 1/8 inch. You should probably just use 1/4 inch dowels. But yeah, this is more for demonstrative purposes. You guys, or for whoever's trying to build a boat. So like I said, one dowel at a time. You take your dowel, and then I'm just going to dip it in here. It's a lot, so wipe off the excess. When doing so, you can also saturate the end of your dowel with whatever slides down the cup, and just slide it right in, honestly. If you want, you can push the excess resin down in there with your dowel. That way, you know, something at least gets down in there. And then you drill your next hole, making sure that is correctly aligned. And remember which ways you drilled the hole. I need to move this, that is in the way. Right there, it's fine. Ready, next dowel. Get it nice and juicy. Put it in there. That's a lot of resin on the little end right there. So you take your denatured alcohol and wipe that off. That way it doesn't drip down. And take your next dowel. Get it nice and saturated, juicy. Whoops. Well, we'll just leave the dowel in there for now. I forgot to drill a hole. So you know, make sure it's lined up in the manner you want it to be, and then I don't need to go that deep because that would probably end up going out the other end of my gunnel. Don't want it to do that. So again, get it nice and juicy and stick it in. Kind of twist it around to get it into the hole and wipe that off. Alright, last one. Also be careful as you do this, since it's already glued in. You'll get resin on your drill tip, drill bit. So just keep that in mind. Alright, and that one's good to go. We are going to keep the clamps in there, and again wipe off any excess that comes through, and we'll move on to the next one. For this, obviously you're going to want to make sure whatever drill you're using is charged up. It would definitely suck if your battery just fails right here. I broke all my dowels, or prepped all my dowels beforehand, so I had them ready to go, because you don't want to have to get stuck making stuff when you're doing this. It would just be bad. Have to wipe that guy down. So I'm pushing this one in with my thumb because it is a little off. I'll drill the hole, making sure that it goes, deep enough, definitely, but not all the way through my gunnel on the parts where it's a little more shallow. Down and in. So, and I mean, you can also pinch the riser to see if it is in the appropriate place. And then also keep this rag handy so you can wipe your hands down so you don't get resin all over your tools, because that sucks. Now the dowel right here might not actually do much of anything, but it will hold it in place at least until the glue cures, or the adhesive cures. Yeah, boom. And that's it. There you go. You have your risers installed. You just wait for that to cure, and then you cut these bad boys off and get it back down to level. All right, I'm going to go work on the back ones, and then I'll be done for the day.